At my mother's funeral, I was sitting in my wheelchair at the edge of Cliffside Cemetery overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The service had just ended. Everyone had left except my husband, Marcus. I heard his footsteps approaching from behind on the gravel path. Then I felt it, his hands gripping the wheelchair handles. Not gently, not like someone offering help, like someone with intent. Through the side mirror I had installed for safety, I watched his face, cold, determined, calculating. He positioned himself behind me, took a breath, and started pushing. Not toward the parking lot, toward the cliff edge, 300 feet above jagged rocks and crashing waves. I had exactly 3 seconds to make a choice: scream and hope someone heard, fight and risk him overpowering me, or do what I do best as a forensic accountant, calculate the variables and play dead before I actually was. I let my body go completely limp. My head dropped forward, my hands slid off the armrests. I stopped breathing, well, I held my breath. Marcus stopped pushing, just 5 feet from the edge. I could feel him lean forward, checking. I didn't move, didn't flinch, played the corpse I was supposed to become. He started muttering to himself. Heart attack, the grief. The doctor said her heart was weak. No one will question it. Then I heard the most chilling sound, him laughing, softly, triumphantly. He pulled out his phone and I heard him dial. Yes, 911? My wife, she just collapsed. I think she's dead. We're at Cliffside Cemetery. Please hurry. I tried CPR, but he was already building his alibi. That's when I opened my eyes and whispered, "You should have checked my pulse, Marcus. Dead women don't record videos." I held up my phone. The camera had been running the entire time, propped in my lap, hidden under my mourning shawl. Every word, every push, every calculated step toward my murder. Before I tell you how a paralyzed woman outsmarted a killer and took back everything he tried to steal, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I want to know how far this story travels. Most wives would have screamed for help. They would have panicked, thrashed, begged. But I am a forensic accountant who spent 12 years tracking financial crimes for the FBI before a drunk driver put me in this wheelchair. I don't panic, I calculate. And what I calculated in those 3 seconds was this: if Marcus wanted me dead badly enough to push me off a cliff at my own mother's funeral, screaming wasn't going to save me. Evidence would. Marcus stood there frozen, staring at my phone like it was a gun pointed at his chest. His face went from triumphant to terrified in under 2 seconds. He lunged for the phone, but I was faster. I locked the screen and pulled it against my chest. It's already uploading to the cloud. I lied, it wasn't, but Marcus didn't know that. If you touch me, if you touch this phone, it sends automatically to the police, to my lawyer, and to every news outlet in the state. His hands hovered in the air, shaking, not with grief, with rage, with the realization that he had miscalculated, that the woman he thought was helpless had just become the most dangerous person in his life. "Elena," he said, his voice switching to that soft, concerned tone he used when other people were around. "Baby, you're confused. The grief, the stress, you're not thinking clearly. I would never." "You just tried to murder me," I said. My voice was steady, cold. "You pushed my wheelchair toward a 300-foot drop while calling it a heart attack. That's premeditated murder, Marcus. 1st degree, and I have it on video." He took a step back, then another. His brain was working, trying to find an angle, a way to spin this. That's when I saw it, the shift in his eyes. He wasn't going to apologize, he wasn't going to beg, he was going to try to negotiate. "How much?" he asked. "Excuse me? How much do you want? To delete that video? To forget this happened?" He was already reaching for his wallet like this was a business transaction. 50,000? 100? Name your price. I started laughing. Not a polite laugh. A deep, guttural sound that came from somewhere I didn't know existed. Because in that moment, I realized something. Marcus hadn't just tried to kill me today, he had been killing me slowly for 3 years, and I had been too grief-stricken, too broken, too focused on my own paralysis to see it. "You think this is about money?" I said. "Marcus, I'm a forensic accountant. I've been investigating you for 6 months." His face went white. "I know about the offshore accounts," I continued. "I know about the shell companies. I know you've been embezzling from my mother's estate since the day she was diagnosed with cancer. I know you forged her signature on the revised will, and I know that I'm the only thing standing between you and a $4.3 million inheritance." Marcus stumbled backward, his hand gripping the fence at the cliff edge. "You're lying!" I pulled out a second phone from the pocket of my wheelchair. This one had a different video queued up. I hit play. It was security footage from my mother's house. Marcus, in her study, 3 months ago, moving papers, signing documents. My mother wasn't even conscious in the bedroom down the hall. She was dying, and he was robbing her. "I installed cameras after you started asking when she was going to finally go," I said. "I'm paralyzed, Marcus, not stupid." He looked at the phone, then at me, then at the cliff edge behind him. I saw the calculation happening in his eyes. If I went over the cliff, the evidence went with me. He could claim the phones were destroyed in the fall. He could still get away with it. He took a step toward me. "I wouldn't," I said. I pressed a button on my wheelchair control panel. The brakes released. The chair started rolling backward, away from him, back toward the parking lot. I had modified the wheelchair 6 months ago, after I started suspecting Marcus wasn't just neglectful, he was dangerous. The chair had a remote reverse function, GPS tracking, and a panic button wired directly to 911. "The police are already on their way," I said. "I pressed the panic button the second you started pushing me toward the cliff. They've been listening to everything through the open line." Marcus turned toward the parking lot. In the distance, I could hear sirens, faint but getting louder. His shoulders sagged. He looked at me with something that might have been regret, but probably wasn't. "You loved me," he said. "No," I said. "You loved what I represented. A tragedy, a disabled wife who made you look noble, a woman whose mother was dying and leaving behind millions. You didn't love me, Marcus. You saw an opportunity." The police cars pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing. 4 officers got out, hands on their weapons. Marcus raised his hands slowly. One of the officers approached me first. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" I shook my head. "I'm fine, but you'll want to see this." I handed him my phone, the video still queued up. He watched it. His jaw tightened. He looked at Marcus with the kind of disgust usually reserved for people who hurt children or animals. "Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for attempted murder." They cuffed him. They read him his rights. Marcus didn't fight. He just stared at me as they loaded him into the back of the patrol car. I didn't look away. I wanted him to see that I wasn't the broken woman he thought I was. I wasn't the victim he had tried to create. To understand how I got here, to this cemetery, to this moment, you have to go back 3 years, to the night that changed everything. I was driving home from work late because I was finalizing a case against a CEO who had embezzled $30 million from his own employees' pension fund. I was good at my job, too good. That CEO had friends, and those friends didn't like that a 32-year-old forensic accountant was about to send their golfing buddy to federal prison. The drunk driver who hit me wasn't drunk. The toxicology report showed he was sober, but his bank account showed a deposit of $75,000 3 days before the accident. I couldn't prove it was connected. The FBI couldn't prove it. But I knew. Someone had paid to have me taken out. They just didn't finish the job. I woke up in the hospital with a severed spine and a prognosis that I would never walk again. The CEO took a plea deal while I was in ICU. Reduced sentence, no trial. My career was over before I even left the hospital. Marcus was there every day, my boyfriend of 2 years, suddenly transformed into my caretaker. He proposed in the hospital room, 3 months into my recovery. He said he loved me. He said nothing would change. He said we would get through this together. I said yes because I was broken, not just physically, emotionally, mentally. I had lost my career, my mobility, my sense of self. Marcus was the only stable thing in my life, or so I thought. We got married in a small ceremony. My mother was there, already starting to show signs of the cancer that would kill her 2 years later. She pulled me aside before the ceremony and whispered, "Are you sure about him? There's something in his eyes I don't trust." I should have listened to her, but I was drowning, and Marcus was the only hand reaching down to pull me up. I didn't realize he was the one holding me under. The first year of marriage was fine. Marcus played the devoted husband. He helped with physical therapy. He drove me to doctor's appointments. He smiled for the photos that his friends posted on social media, showing what a good man he was for staying with his disabled wife. But I started noticing things, small things. Money disappearing from our joint account. Marcus taking calls in the other room, lowering his voice when I rolled into the room. Him asking detailed questions about my mother's health, her estate, her will. Then my mother got her diagnosis, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 6 months to live, maybe a year with treatment. She chose treatment not because she thought it would save her, but because she wanted time to get her affairs in order. She asked me to help her organize her estate. I said yes, it's what I used to do for a living after all. That's when I found the first discrepancy, a withdrawal from my mother's account that she didn't remember authorizing, then another, then transfers to an LLC I had never heard of. I started digging, quietly. I didn't tell Marcus. I didn't tell my mother. I just followed the money. The LLC was registered to a name I didn't recognize, but the address was a mailbox store 3 blocks from our apartment. I paid a private investigator to stake it out. 2 weeks later, he sent me a photo of Marcus picking up mail from that box. Marcus was stealing from my dying mother. I wanted to confront him immediately, but I'm a forensic accountant. I don't just find one piece of evidence and call it a case. I build an airtight prosecution. So I installed cameras in my mother's house. I cloned Marcus's phone. I started tracking every transaction, every signature, every document. What I found was worse than embezzlement. Marcus have convinced my mother during one of her pain medication-induced fog states to sign a revised will. In this version, I inherited nothing directly. Everything went into a trust that Marcus controlled as the trustee. My mother's estate was worth $4.3 million, her house, her investments, her life insurance, and Marcus had positioned himself to control all of it. The only problem was me. As long as I was alive, I could contest the will, I could audit the trust, I could expose him. So I had to die, quietly, tragically, in a way that looked like an accident or natural causes. I confronted him once, about a month before my mother died. I asked him directly about the LLC. He smiled. He said it was a surprise, an investment he was making for our future. He kissed my forehead and told me not to worry about it. That's when I knew he was going to kill me. I started preparing. I modified my wheelchair with the remote functions. I set up cloud backups of all my evidence. I wrote a letter to my lawyer outlining everything I had found, with instructions to open it if anything happened to me. I turned myself into a dead man switch. If I died, Marcus went to prison. My mother passed away 3 weeks ago, peacefully, at home, with me holding her hand. Her last words to me were, "Don't let him take everything." She knew. Even in her final moments, she knew Marcus was a threat. The funeral was today, and Marcus saw his opportunity. A grieving widow in a wheelchair at a cliff-top cemetery. One push, an accident, a tragedy. He would inherit everything, play the devastated husband, and disappear into a comfortable retirement funded by my mother's money and my corpse. He just didn't count on me being 3 steps ahead. The trial took 4 months. Marcus pleaded not guilty, claiming the video was edited, that I had manipulated the evidence, that I was mentally unstable from grief. His lawyer tried to paint me as a bitter, disabled woman seeking revenge against her devoted husband. Then, the prosecution played the security footage from my mother's house. They showed the forged signatures. They brought in handwriting experts. They traced the shell companies back to Marcus. They showed the jury exactly who he was, not a devoted husband, but a con artist who preyed on vulnerable women. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts: attempted murder, fraud, embezzlement, forgery. The judge sentenced him to 25 years without the possibility of parole. I was in the courtroom when they read the verdict. Marcus looked at me one last time before they took him away. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel vindication. I just felt tired. It has been 7 months since the sentencing. I sold my mother's house and donated half the proceeds to a foundation for spinal cord injury research. The other half I used to start my own forensic accounting firm, specializing in estate fraud and elder abuse. I hire exclusively women who have been underestimated, overlooked, or left behind by the system. I still use a wheelchair. I probably always will. But I've learned something about paralysis. It's not always physical. Marcus tried to paralyze me emotionally, mentally, financially. He tried to make me believe I was helpless. He tried to make me disappear. But you can't disappear someone who spent years making sure criminals couldn't hide. You can't con someone who tracks money for a living. And you can't kill someone who has already survived the worst thing that could happen to them. I'm sitting in my office looking at a new case file. A daughter suspects her stepfather is embezzling from her elderly mother. The pattern looks familiar. The red flags are identical. I open the file and start building the case, because that's what I do. I follow the money, I find the truth, and I make sure the people who think they can get away with it learn a very expensive lesson. Marcus is in a maximum security prison right now, sharing a cell with a man convicted of insurance fraud. I heard he's working in the prison library, minimum wage, no offshore accounts, no expensive suits, just orange jumpsuits and a very long time to think about the woman in the wheelchair he underestimated. I hope he thinks about me every single day. I hope he remembers the look on my face when I opened my eyes and whispered, "You should have checked my pulse." I hope he remembers that the woman he tried to push off a cliff is the same woman who pushed him into a cage. If you believe that underestimating someone because of their disability is the biggest mistake you can make, hit that like button and share this story. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated because of something beyond your control? What did you do to prove them wrong?